Welcome to the next episode of the Marianne Hickman Show. Today's guest is Brigham Blackham. Now, this one gets really technical when we start to talk real estate investing. Now, I don't know if you're into real estate investing or not, but I have to tell you, this is one of the major things that pulled me out of poverty and into financial abundance, financial freedom. So you might want to stay tuned if you're ready to reach your next level of financial success. As always, you can check out our guest links right here in the description. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about this episode. Check it out. So tell me what you've been up to recently.
What I've been up to, a lot of things. This last week, I had a great time at the Renatus National Conference. Got to hang out with a lot of my friends. Booked a handful more podcast guests, which was super fun. Have a Mr. Universe is going to be on my podcast this month. If you know,
Wait, Mystery Universe?
So if you ever heard of Ron Williams, he's actually from Utah, which is pretty cool.
No
So
way.
he's going to be on there this next week. I'll also have some really cool guys. So if you know like Justin Prince, he's going to be this next Thursday as well. So
That's
just
awesome.
connecting with big people and having a great time doing it.
Oh, so cool. So the conference went well and you got some more podcast gigs, which is amazing.
That was great.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me about your podcast. So and I want everyone to hear this because when you collaborate with someone, I want people to go check out your podcast. If they're watching this one, I want them to go check out my other guest podcast. Like, tell us what your podcast is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine is called Leveling Up with Brigham Blackham. The whole purpose of it is to create patterns of progress and to share stories, because I think stories are the key to really understanding what is possible in business and in real estate. And that's my main focus, is how do I improve my business? And then how do I take what I'm learning and what I'm earning and putting it into real estate? Because that's just one of the passions that I have, is to help people invest back into themselves and into their future and into their family. So,
and I want to pinpoint on this because there's this concept of investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And there's ways to do that really well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways to royally screw that up and think you're investing in yourself.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and here's the difference that I have kind of, I'm amalgamating my words. I'm just making up new words as well. But I see someone like, okay, let's say you're at an event.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's a speaker, amazing lineup of speakers. There's amazing music, all the lights, all of everything. And then they do the call to action and they drive you to the back of the room for an $18,000 ticket item.
Sure.
In reality, there are high ticket items that serve the audience and they are no brainers, and people sign up at amazing rates because it actually is the best next move for them.
Yeah.
And there are, I'm making up a price point. It doesn't really matter what the price point is, but let's just say that there's a similar but opposite room, same lights, same sound, same music. And then the offer is a manipulative offer of 18,000, where it is the 18,000 goes into the coffers of the people who collected, and the people that paid that money aren't getting the return on investment. Now there's a third category where people pay $18,000 and then never use the program. So they invested, but didn't use the investment. So I was just talking about this. Who was I talking about this with just the other day? And I can't remember the name. That's like 6 podcasts ago.
Sure.
But it was Chad. I remember now, it was Chad. Okay. How do you tell the difference, or rather, what is the difference between stroking a check to a mentor and feeling like, no, I didn't invest in me, I invested in the mentor. Obviously, they got my money. And what's the difference between, oh, I made an investment in me?
That's a great question. So let me answer that by sharing an example.
Please. I love stories. Story time.
This is one of my favorite examples. I've gone to college myself. I went to BYU. I went to Snow College. I went to Weber. And I want you to think back on your experience in college. And if you pay tuition, are you investing in yourself? Yeah, technically. But who gets the money? The university. If you show up to class, that's just saying, I'm utilizing what I bought. If you take action on what you learned, that's utilizing what you bought. But the fact is, you paid the tuition. And you are getting exactly the value that you are putting into it. And I think any mentorship, any coaching platform, any online system, if you pay for the software and you don't use the software, did they not deliver the software to you? 100%. That's on you as the consumer. And I love this idea of changing your positioning from being a consumer to a student. Now, if you say, "Oh, I'm a consumer, I demand you give me this value," that's very different than, "I want to learn everything I can. I want to actually absorb as much as I can from this so I can take action on it." Very exact same amount of money was done, right? Your $18,000 example, you paid the $18,000 here, and they did it here as well. But if you don't take the action and say, "I'm a student, I actually want to keep my hands open and see what's possible for me. I want to go to my classes," right? Say you go to BYU, you're like, "I want to go to my classes. I'm going to associate with other people. I'm going to get to connect with my teachers." What if you actually got something that was way more valuable than the tuition dollars? That's what you're really hoping for. But it is 100% upon that student what they get out of the program. Because I've heard multiple coaches say this. You're like, "I wonder if they actually would have done what I told them to do the first time." Instead of just wondering. So to differentiate those three, number one is, are you doing what your coach is actually asking you to do? Because you can pay a coach 18 grand, and if you don't do what they say, you might as well have just lit that on fire.
It's true.
Really, it's just not useful. Or if you're like, "Hey, I have a program that I'm buying into, right? It has a system that has step by step," but you're like, "Oh, you know what? I just want to skip the first 2 or 3 steps. I'm just going to go to step 4." If you don't follow their process that's been proven or that framework, even though you paid the money, you skipped the steps. Like, it's called, jumping the creek, is what my friend Eric Counts says.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You take the stepping stones and you can start to have incremental progress. And I think the other difference is, think of it like this. Like, if you buy a car, how many of us would buy a car and leave it on the lot?
And no one, zero.
Nobody,
Who would do
zero
that?
people, zero people are going to do that. But how many people do you know that have paid money for a online class or program or mentorship, and they never book a call or they never show up? I have experienced people
Pick
like that.
me. Yes, I've
Yeah.
done this before.
Yeah. So we see that there's value in it. You're like, "I can use this," but there's a difference between "I can use this" and "I am using this," even if it's imperfect and it's only a little bit at a time. So for instance, I've got a great coach, a great mentor. I paid great amount of money to be involved with him. And instead of him asking me, "Hey, are you watching your classes?" I'm like, "I'm going to get as much value out of this as possible so that you can actually elevate your language with that coach. You drink their Kool-Aid so that you can understand, oh, what is it that they're actually saying?" And then you can think at a higher level because you're able to share their experience. And that's where wisdom really comes in. I love coaching, I love mentorship. And it's so helpful when you can have someone say, "I've been there, I've done that. Here's what my experience was. If you do similar things, you could potentially cut that time frame down." That's why you pay a coach. It's not because you can't get that information in a book. You absolutely can. There's really, do you want to have it done for you, right? You pay someone high dollar done for you, or do you want to have someone do it alongside you, or do you want to do it on your own? And I think that's really where most price points differ. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why we're getting on price points, but it comes down to, how are you going to use the product? So
Well, and gosh, I'm designing. I love matrices, by the way. Like, if I can chart out, like, this happens in this criteria, this happens in this one, these happen in the vertical.
yeah.
What you're helping me formulate actually is a really cool matrices for self-investment.
Mm,
I have this matrix for avoiding failure because I don't believe in failure.
mm.
In fact, it's an F word to me. It's worse than the one that people associate with the F word, because the failure is just, I refuse to learn something.
Yeah, I think of it as false evidence appearing real.
Exactly.
That's what fail is. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then that's fear as well, by the way, is false evidence appearing real.
Mhm.
And they feed each other, this weird thing.
Yeah.
So when I go to the back of the room, there's this criteria. Either the presenter is actually presenting a valuable offer,
Mm.
or they're not.
Well, they're not. Yeah.
Right? There's one of two criteria. Now, if I go to the back of the room and it's a valuable offer and I invest in myself, that I'm paying and I'm getting the value out of the offer. That's the ultimate win-win.
Yeah.
The program is everything it's cracked up to be and more. You invest in it, you utilize it, right?
Everybody's happy in that situation, right?
Everybody's happy. Now, there's a quadrant above that where I don't buy the program. It could have helped me, But I let fear, this false evidence appearing real, get in my way. And now I'm even further behind because time is not collapsed, it's expanded, but not in my favor. So
Right.
let's go over here and say, now it's a crappy product. Now there's a manipulative salesperson on stage. We've all been to these events, by the way.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. Even though the tools are the same, I always say you can use a hammer to create or to destroy.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's a crappy offer. But the person on stage is so expert and adept in manipulating human psychology that people do buy.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I think the real lesson is, because let's just say that there's a group of people that aren't fooled and they don't buy, and that ends up being for them what's best. But there's this group that do,
Mhm.
and the offer is no good. There's no support, there's no fulfillment. Unfortunately, I've seen this happen firsthand.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of refunds occur. But there's this magical gift inside this box. And you made me think of it when you mentioned college, because I paid 6 figures to go to college and I didn't get what I thought I wanted. And this is the magic hidden box, is
Yeah.
when you buy something that may end up being a crappy offer, if you will,
Sure.
and no ROI. But you say, how am I going to leverage the tuition that I paid to demand an education?
Yeah. Now, what you said there is so interesting because I come from a background as a teacher. I was a theater teacher, Mandarin Chinese teacher before I became an entrepreneur. And I think in education, this is the only place where people are like, "Hey, can I pay you for this opportunity to come to class and then be happy when it doesn't happen?" Like,
It's
you're like,
wild.
why would people do that? You're like, "Oh, we canceled class today." You're like, "Hooray, we don't have to go to class." Like, that makes zero sense.
It
Like, no,
blows my mind.
it blows my mind too. So the the difference from seeing someone that is genuinely interested, not trying to be interesting, but genuinely interested in whatever the topic is, and they're willing to be coachable. I talk about this coachability index often with my friend Michael Huggins, and we talked about if you are coachable, you don't filter whether or not that is something that you can get value from or that you will do. If you believe the coach and they are absolutely credible and they've done this before, you say, all right, I'm going to do that. That's being coachable. Doesn't mean you can't think while you're doing it. You're like, hey, now I did this action that you said. Here's how I did it. And then you review it. There's that think, do, and then review.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are actually coachable, you're willing to go do something with what you're given. I think that's key.
And I think I agree with that. And I think there's different levels of coachability.
Oh yeah.
And not only that coachability, but there's also surprise lessons. My
Yeah.
biggest takeaways from college didn't come from my professors.
Usually not. Yeah.
They usually don't, right? My biggest takeaway from college for me was I spent $100,000 to learn where to find extraordinary employees,
Yeah. There you go.
not where to learn to become an entrepreneur. It was $100,000 lesson in don't take advice from people who don't have the results that you want.
Yeah.
And I
That's valuable.
learned that lesson before school, but I chose to pay 100 grand to learn that. It was a very valuable lesson.
Exactly. And one of the things that I love about the coaching space and learning how to really connect with people that are doing the work is when you are talking to someone that's like, say, a professional athlete or someone that has been in the arena working day in and day out, saying, I'm going to be the very best version of myself. Like you talk to a professional actor instead of saying, man, I want to be a professional actor too. And them saying, oh, you'll never be able to do that. They'll say, awesome, put the work in, get the tutoring you need to make sure that your voice is on key and your body is able to be utilized. And they are encouraging people that are in the work doing it, like other coaches, other mentors. They don't want to say, oh, you can't do it because I'm doing it already. There's this abundance mindset that if you can help somebody else, there's people that you can help that I'm not going to be able to help the same. There's people that I'm going to help that you're not going to be able to help the same because we have different personalities. We connect in different ways.
Mhm.
And when you surround yourself with practitioners, you surround yourself with people that are living, breathing proof that the results that you want in your life are happening for yourself, that they're happening for them. Like, if I follow similar steps, what if I could get similar results? Because there are frameworks. Success leaves clues. I love Earl
Mhm.
Nightingale's expression about success. He says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It's like, man,
I need that tattooed on my forehead.
you can get the temporary tattoos and then you know. But it's so true. Like whatever you want to do, there are people that are doing it. We go find those practitioners. That's why I love my group of real estate investors, because instead of people just reading books and talking about it, people are doing it day in, day out. I see that the results are possible. People can go and invest their money in a short-term rental and start getting a return on their investment. And you can see it. It's real dollars, it's real opportunities. And it's something that gets me lit up and excited, because it's not just hypothetical. It's like, oh, maybe you could invest in real estate and have fun and make money. It's no, this person did it, and this person did it, and you see multiple people. So that, like, for instance, last Thursday, we said, hey, all of the people in the audience that have done a real estate deal since you joined our community, get up, and we want, the 10-second version, where you're from, what you've done, and then how many deals you've done in like 10-15 seconds. We had like 400 plus people get up out of the crowd of the thousand or so, get up and walk across the stage and do that. Absolutely inspirational. And you're like, oh, well, there's the proof in the pudding right there. People are doing the work. But if you're not going to do the work, why did you pay the money? You know what I mean? You're
Hmm.
like,
Hmm. I
there's
love
plenty
that.
of people. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love that element of social proof.
Yeah.
Now, when you're speaking, I love teaching speaking on stage and teaching sales from stage. And this element that you're talking about, this social proof element,
Mhm.
it's again, when it's used poorly, it's a manipulation thing, and
Oh my
everyone can
goodness. Yeah.
smell it. They're smart enough to know this.
Right.
But when you're looking for social proof, it's the red car principle. If you buy a red car, suddenly you see that same red car everywhere. Our brains are looking for confirmation that what we did was a good choice. Showing up to your event was a good choice because I just watched 400 people
Yeah.
stand up and move. Many of them were who have never gotten on stage before and held a microphone and said, I did a cool thing, right? So the social proof element, we're all looking for this. We will like an Instagram reel if we see that 43,000 people have liked it before we've even watched the thing,
I've done that before. It's true.
right?
We do that sometimes because there's social proof.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of that social proof is it helping you actually get closer to your goals?
Mm-hmm.
If you are aligning yourself with people like you said, that are living, breathing proof that what you want in your life is possible, you start to collect data points that, well, they did this to improve their opportunity, and they did this, and you can start to see those patterns. And that's why associating with the right type of people that are living, breathing proof that it works, very helpful. So like, what, for instance, when I was first getting started in real estate investing, I was always talking to other teachers about it. And what was crazy was I thought I was doing everything wrong, because the people I was talking with had zero experience. Most of them were renting, and they didn't believe that real estate was even a possibility for them. And when you associate with people like that, eventually your belief starts to go down a little bit. Oh, I guess, well, if they can't do it, I mean, oh wait, he can't do it either. He can't. Oh my goodness. But the shift was, you know what? I'm going to intentionally go be around people that are getting the results that I want, and recognize what they do, who they speak with, what they bring into their life, what books they're reading, who they're associating with, and what they're doing day in and day out that makes a difference. And that law of association, it starts to really attract the right things into your life. And has made such a huge difference in my life.
I think you're onto something here, and it's I have made the mistake of making a very myopic approach to this.
What is myopic? I don't remember what that means.
Too focused, too lasered in, blinders on.
Sure.
I have made the mistake, and maybe I'm not the only one who has said, "Oh, this person has achieved a level of success in this thing, so I should copy everything that they do," which
Oh, yeah.
is not true. So I'll give you an example. So I'll just say it. My mom is an amazing mother, and I will take pages from her book of mothering for the rest of my life because she is, I can just hands down say, the world's best at it. I have not met a better one. I will not take pages from her financial book because I want to do better than that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. And I think if mom, if you're listening, I hope you're okay with this. like I because I don't want to be like, I want to take my mom's pages from Mother book, and I want to take the pages from Tony Robbins' book on how to be a coach, and I want to take the pages from my health coach's book on how to be fit and show up on stage with a fit, healthy body. So I'm taking pages from all of these books, but I only want the pages from what you're good at.
Yeah.
I've got a financial mentor who mentored me a long time, but I wouldn't take pages from that parenting book
Yeah, that's
because
a
I
great
don't know
visual
them.
as well. You think about it. Every single person that you associate with has certain things that they can teach you. There's an expression in Chinese, 三人行必有我师焉. When you're
Oh, that
walking,
was a long one. Say it again.
三人行, so when three people are walking, right? You're one of the people, you people on both sides.
Uh-huh.
They can be your teacher. Everybody can teach you.
Ooh.
This is a 2000 plus year old saying, but you think about who you associate with, there are good things and bad things that you can learn from, because those experiences that they share with you, they can either say, wow, that was so good, I want to emulate that, I'm going to make a similar choice when I have that type of experience, or you're like, wow, that was an awful choice, I'm so glad you made that for me, thank you. It happens sometimes,
It does.
and that's wisdom, when we can learn from somebody else's experience and not have to experience the same thing ourselves if we don't want that same result.
So let's pivot this into the conversation of the people that we serve.
Yeah.
This is I aspire to be the dumbest kid in the room
I love that. That's so good. Okay.
as often as I can. And maybe that makes me a selfish leech. I don't know. But I just loved this principle of three that you're talking about. I won't butcher the saying, but you said it so eloquently.
Thank you.
When you're in the room and you're the dumbest kid in the room, there's a huge opportunity to learn. But sometimes people come to your room who want to learn from you.
Yeah.
And there's value in being associated from that. And I think one of the biggest dangers that coaches make is when they're coaching, there's this pedestal syndrome. And it's when you or the people that you serve put you on a pedestal and there's this holier than thou, or there's a I know more than you, instead of this collaboration of we're all just figuring out things together. I might be further down this path, but that doesn't mean you're not on the path. And I'm here side by side with you, not ahead of you, even though my results are fast forwarded from yours.
I love that. Is it okay if I share another idea that might be helpful with this?
Please, yes.
Okay. So check this out. When I think of leadership, I think of it kind of the way that the Savior taught leadership.
Yes, let's go there.
You,
Please
you
dive in.
go, you go and serve those around you. Leadership is about raising your hand and saying, if you need service, you need help, you need support, I'm here for you. I'm not going to do it for you because that would be coddling. I'm not going to fish for you. I'm going to help you learn how to fish. But when you need something, my hand is raised. And instead of thinking I'm holier than thou, it says I'm going to serve the person at the very bottom. I want to see how can I be of service to them and let them know that they have the support, they have resources, they have abilities. Now that doesn't mean you're going to do everything for them, because that's when you get into the micromanaging, and I don't think that's good leadership, to be honest. When I've
I
read John
agree.
Maxwell's leadership principles that he talks about, like that's the lowest form of leadership, is forcing someone to do something
Yeah.
because of your
And
position.
everybody hates it, by the way.
Who
The
hates
leader
it?
hates it, they hate it.
Yeah, you're just like, ugh, I don't like that. But if you can positively impact, inspire, and uplift others because you're willing to serve them and to give first, even if they never return it, you'll get some value by helping someone else. And what's cool about the world is, as we put goodness out there and we give, eventually it'll come back to us. I love that about the law of reciprocity. Now, it's probably not going to come the same way that you might have thought, but it will come.
It's usually better in my experience. I have this mantra that says I always get what I want unless I'm getting something better.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I hope I'm getting something better, right? That's
Well, it
so cool.
has to be because I have had something better come in really disgusting wrapping paper.
Oh, that's such a great visual. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Like, have you ever envisioned a present under a tree and it's slimy and gross, but there's still a gift inside? You just got to get through the muck.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's such a huge belief of mine, and it served me very, very well. But I want to come back to this spot of who do you serve?
Mm,
Who do you serve, Brigham? Who are your people? Who is the audience that you're looking to serve, and what are they struggling with?
I love it. So people that I'm looking to serve, these are young business owners people that want to get into real estate investing that maybe haven't figured out how to unlock their potential yet. That's who I serve. People that have been like, man, I'm maybe doing really well in my business, but I'm not getting all of the elements together. I'm struggling with some portions of my finances, or I'm struggling with my mindset, my skill set, my tool set to be able to bring your sole purpose into your business. Because if all you're doing is making money, it's not going to last very long. I've seen a lot of people go and be like, man, I'm such a good window washer. I was like, great, you're making some money, but is it making a difference in your life and your life of your family? And are you happy doing it? Now, if you're happy doing it, that's totally different. If this is something that you're driven by and it's feeding your soul, that's totally different. But if you don't have the ability to make money and be able to build value in someone else's life, what if you could? And
What I
yeah,
want to, can I lean into this for a second? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
let's lean in. Let's do it. Go ahead.
When I'm working with people who are getting ready to go on stage or getting ready to publish their ebook or whatever it is, I have found this commonality. They've achieved a certain level of success, and that's why they have the authority to teach, right? And you and I as coaches, we have this level of success that says, okay, I'm at this point, therefore I can reach my hand down and help. I think we often forget, and I am so guilty of this, when what it's like to feel the fire of your lungs burning at the bottom of the pool. Because we're at the top of the pool, or at least we're on a level of the pool where we can see the palm trees and we can take a sip of our mimosas or whatever and enjoy it, right? Virgin mimosas, of course.
Virgin memo. Yeah, absolutely. Never had one.
It's just orange juice at this point.
Orange
But
juice.
when the people, or I mean, we've both been at the bottom of the pool before, and we weren't thinking about the palm trees. We weren't thinking about the recliners. We were thinking my lungs were on fire. What are the people that you serve? What are they saying right before they find you? What are the words that come out of their mouths when they're in their dark, ugly place? Like, what do they complain to their friends about? And what are their words of desperation?
There's so many. I think of why me? They'll say stuff like that. Why am I even doing this business? What am I doing with my life? You'll hear people almost like that midlife crisis when they're like, I've been making money, but it's gone. Where is it going?
Mm,
Sometimes you can even be making money, but you're not making a difference. And I felt like that when I was teaching. I was like, I thought when I got into this that I'd be able to not just make an impact on my students, but I'd be able to, provide for my family and to help a lot more people. But I realized it was very narrow. There's only so much I could do in my Chinese class in that little high school. And I wanted to make a bigger impact. And when you see someone that is full of potential, they have their eyes wide open to the future, but they don't know where to look. That's one of the things that I love to help people say, what if you could take more control of your finances? What if you could pay a little bit less in taxes because you did it legally, ethically, and morally, and you understood the tax code? What if we could empower you to have a little bit more credit so you can have a cushion in your life and not be so strapped? What if you could learn how to actually go out there and use your money twice instead of just once?
mm.
So you benefit yourself instead of just the bank. And there's so many little things like that, that minor little adjustments. If you have 10 or 20 minor adjustments, you will not recognize your life in a year. But if you stay the same, you don't make those choices, you don't hire the coach, or you don't find that next level for yourself, how long do you want to stay doing the same thing? Because you're going to be getting the same results if you don't make some type of shift.
I find that people don't generally ask themselves that question. They generally needs to be pointed out to them. You can't see the cup if you're in the coffee.
It's so true. And I like to think of it like this. Like, if you're a BandAid salesman, you're not saying, hey, here's a Band-Aid. What you do is you're like, oh, you're bleeding. Do you need this? You
Yeah.
you poke the bruise, or you help people recognize that there's actually pain there. Because
Yeah.
some people don't even realize that the government's, gutting them with their taxes, because they have that dopamine hit when they're like, oh, I got my tax return back. You're like, well, great.
What a swindle.
What a swindle. They reassociated that so well. You're like, I'm going to give you 40% and you give me back 10. Sounds great. I'll do that every time in business. You're like, wait a second. This is a really bad business deal. And
And
when
my
we
business partner, who I pay 40% to, does jack.
does nothing, nothing for you. And they're like, oh, instead of giving you a turn, how about you just, let me live off you for a year and then I'll give you a little bit back. That sound okay? Like, no.
I'm gonna puke. It's gross.
I know. I feel that too. And that's one of those things that, I mean, I'm not a CPA or anything, but when I first saw that W-2 mindset of go to school, get good grades, so you could get a good job and do that for 40 years, then you can retire on 40% of what you made. And I was like, I can barely live on what I'm making now. So that just means I'm never going to actually retire as a teacher. That vehicle, that job was never going to get me where I wanted to go. And you look at the HR department, they're like, well, all you need is to sock away, what, $6 million and you can live life fine. And you're like, wait a second, what? For 20 years, just living on interest? I don't know any teachers that have socked away $6 million, let alone 1 million, let alone 500,000. It's just a broken system. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate, is because if we can help people just see what's possible, say, what if you could buy one rental property a year for the next 10 years? That's all you're able to do. You're like, I can figure out, what do I need to do to run my numbers, even if I don't have to make my own put my own money into this. I find how to leverage someone else's credit legally, ethically, morally. I help them do it as well. I can leverage some money from somebody else as well. And you put those things together, you craft that deal. What if every single year you could buy one rental property and all it did was bring in an extra $200 every single month? There's 2,000 extra dollars after 10 years. And then what happens if you sold 3 or 4 of those? You could pay off a handful of them. And then you've got $8,000 or $10,000 left over cash flow. And that's the equivalent of socking away $2,000 to $10,000 or two to maybe $4 million in the stock market. And who's in control of the home? You are. Who's in control of your future? You are. If the economy actually has a little bit of appreciation, who does that benefit? Benefits you, right?
Mhm.
You have tax write-offs, and there's so many extra things. I mean, we don't have time to go into a lot of it, but I just want to empower more people to see that there are ways that you can take more control of your life if you're willing to get uncomfortable for a time and say, maybe I don't know what I don't know.
Oh, I call that, you have to be willing to feel stupid for a second.
Oh my goodness, we do. And you have to be willing to ask the stupid question, because if you don't ask the stupid question and feel stupid for 5 minutes, you're going to be stupid for as long as it takes for you to hear that in passing. If maybe
So
you never even hear it. Go
I
ahead.
want to go back to this moment for you,
Yeah.
because you were teaching, was it Mandarin you were teaching, right?
Mandarin Chinese and theater. Yes.
So you're gosh, I would love to have been in your classes, like
Oh,
Mandarin
it's so fun.
and
You would have
theater,
loved it.
like what? So, but what was the moment when, I don't know, I'm gonna make up a scenario, like you drive home one day and you park your car and you sit in your driveway for a second and you're like, I'm gonna go back and do that again tomorrow, and again and again and
Mhm.
again. And I've been doing this for days and days and days and days. And I'm watching the clock tick by. And as the hours are going away, my bank account isn't filling the way I want it to. What was that moment like for you?
I had multiple moments like that. I want you to think back. I was actually a scare. We're gonna get a little dark for just a second. I'm
Let's
sorry, but
go
you
there.
said to go there, so I'm gonna go there.
Let's go.
My wife had a cancer scare. She
Oof.
had a goiter come and appear. We're like, what is going on? And I realized I don't know what I would do if I lost her, and I was really kind of terrified because I didn't know what I didn't know. And sometimes the unknown is so much more scary than we realize. And when I saw that our finances, if I stopped working, guess how much money would come in? $0 as a W-2 employee. If I didn't put put my clothes on, get to the school, teach the lessons, there was $0 coming in. I was like, wait a second. I remember reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad in high school. I don't have any assets. I'd spent my entire life only building this asset myself, my mind, and I had zero leverage. Like I was renting. And what was crazy is I've been renting for years. I went every year, year and a half, I was moving. So 11 years, I moved over 11 times. It's just, ugh, never feel like you have roots that way. And it's hard to
Uh-uh.
make friends. You're like, man, it's always in transition. And when I saw that there was actually a way that I could start to put down some roots with building assets. I was like, that's the answer. I don't have to be the best at this to be able to make money. I can actually be just okay at real estate and still make a really good living. You think about mom and pop type of landlords. There's so many people out there that have 8 or 10 rentals and they're able to live comfortably because even if they got hurt, does that mean their renter's not going to pay money? Like, no, they're going to work all month long as hard as they can to make sure you're the first one paid. I was like, that's a really good piece of leverage. I think I want to ascribe to that. I want to understand how that works. So that was the eye opener for me. When I
Mm.
came down, I saw other people that were doing it, not just talking about it. Because it's one thing to talk about it. I'd been to a handful of rich dad, poor dad type of things, and there's a lot of people talking, but there wasn't a lot of people doing. And when I saw that there were people actually doing it in my local market, it's like I just want to be around those people and see what's possible, and then figure out how do I do that too. Because it's one thing to have the information, it's another to implement it. And when you marry those two together, information that's quality with those systems, and you do something with it, you start to make little shifts in your life. And about 2.5 years ago, I took a leap of faith and I was like, you know what? I am gonna actually retire from teaching because I knew that vehicle was not going to get me where I wanted to go. And
Oh, that takes
it was a
guts.
little premature. Looking at it, I was a little premature, but I still made the leap. And I said, I'm going to do real estate investing only and share this opportunity of learning how to invest in real estate as well. And made a huge difference being able to be fully focused on that.
That's a big jump. I remember when I first started investing in real estate, and the only thing I knew about real estate was that it meant house.
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
know it to be asset vehicle was not in my vocabulary.
Right.
I didn't know that you could buy a house that you weren't living in.
Mhm.
That was so new to me. And gosh, it just was, I think it was an answer to prayer, honestly. It was thrust upon me because I prayed for an answer and God's like, well, you're not going to understand this for a second, but hang with me here. When you were in that moment, and maybe you always knew about real estate investing and what that was and what it took, but for me, it was a huge jump from W-2 mindset and living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to, okay, let's discover what even an asset is. Let's learn what leverage is. What is the lever?
Mhm.
Let's learn how to send my dollars to the office for me instead of my time or my body or my car. For
Yeah.
you, right before you said, okay, maybe investing in my first real estate deal would be a good idea, what was the thought process?
Well, what was funny, I did my first investment property before I bought my first house, like my personal house.
But
So,
did you know you were doing it?
oh, I knew I was going to do it. I was like, you know what? I got the information that I needed. I was in the right community because you need to make sure you've got the examples. And then I, because I was listening to these classes, I was around the people. I heard things differently. It was that effective filter principle you brought up about the red car.
Mm-hmm.
I heard different things, and I had my best friend. He was telling me, "Man, I'm so sick of uh, this situation with my tenants. They're smoking pot in there, and they have a dog, and they're not supposed to, and it's just horrible." And I was like, "Oh, this is those opportunities that don't look like real estate. That is actually a real estate opportunity." And I asked him, "Well, can I buy your house from you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And within a week, I had it under contract. And guess what? As a teacher, I didn't have any expendable income. I was very much so
That's what I'm saying. Like, how did you even do
razor's
that?
edge. So here's just a overview. What I did was I watched the classes that were talking about subject to. This is a type of real estate deal where you keep the underlying mortgage in place, and you say, I'm going to take over your mortgage. We're going to have the note written out through a lawyer. I had a good friend of mine that was also an actor with me that helped me do that. And then I took over his payments, and he didn't even want it was so painful for him. He's like, I don't want to touch it. As soon as you're done with this fix and flip, then I'll be paid the when you get paid. And I was like, great. So I got the house for $0 down. It was like maybe $2 or $3 to close, two or $3,000 to close
Yeah,
with
you
all
had to pay closing costs.
to
Yeah.
pay some closing costs. We didn't have any realtors, so we saved 6% on that. So he was able to keep, at least 3 more percent than he would have normally. gave him a fair price. And what was cool was I didn't have any money, but I did have a community. And when you don't have resources, you need to be resourceful.
Who, not how.
Who, not how. And I went and talked to some of my good friends. We actually were playing a cash flow game.
I love this game. We still need
Cash
to
flow
do it
101.
tonight, by
It's
the
so
way.
fun.
We
What
need to
was
rent
that?
out a room and just invite all of our friends that can play this game. I've got 3 requests for it in the
I
last week.
love it. Well, we do that about once a month. We'll play cash flow over in Sandy, Utah. It's so fun.
Oh, I want an invite.
Okay, deal. You got an invite. It's so much fun. So long story short, I took this house over subject to, it was 192 when I bought it, was purchase price. We put $55,000 into it. It appraised for almost $300,000, but the business partner that I had, they're like, hey, you know what? We actually want to keep it as a rental. And I was like, well, I need to have some money from it. And we were able to negotiate. And like, well, if we would have sold it, we would have had about a $45,000 profit. Right then. I was like, great. So I will take 22,500. And my results are not typical, guys, but I took 22,500. And in those 3 months that I did that fix and flip, I was like, shoot, I made half a year's income by not being personally in there. I leveraged the opportunity of a friend's house. I didn't have any money in there, and I didn't have anything except for my time and my gas. I went down to St. George 3 times to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, my return on investment was nuts because I had probably less than $1,000 that I put into it with gas and food. And I made 22,500. I was like, this is where I can see myself making a big impact in my own life. I mean, I haven't done a ton of real estate yet, but seeing what was possible in that deal gave me something called a belief check. You get that dollar, like, oh shoot, it works. You're like, it does work. So that was actually the seed money for my short-term rental business. And I've been living off my short-term rental business the last 3.5 years.
That's
I started
incredible.
in September 2019, and that money I consider it really sacred because I put that money and I just kept rolling it into more units to get more units of production. And it's been something that has changed my life significantly. It's built confidence because of the competence that it gave me, and it's made all the difference. So
That just reminds me of this first. I want to give another example if I can do a hostile takeover for a second,
yeah,
because I know that people,
hostile takeover. Go ahead.
like because when I was in my, I call it the bottom of the pool moment, right? When my lungs are burning and everything sucks and I'm looking around me and I'm not seeing a way. The only opportunity I have is to look up and find someone who can help me out of this crap that I'm in. I didn't know what real estate was. I didn't know what any of this was. I didn't know understand like everything that you just explained would have gone right over my head. I didn't understand the vernacular. I just didn't get it. And then when I sat down and someone walked me through it and said, okay, watch this. Okay, you've got something called a hidden asset. It's a 401k that you're not using. You're
Mm,
not retired yet. You can access that money. You'll pay penalties, but that's okay because you'll make more than the penalties cost you. You're going to take this $14,000, itty bitty little 401k, itty bitty little thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to also sell the condo that you're living in. And we're going to take the money from that condo and we're going to take the money from that 401k and we're going to put it in a bank account and then we're going to go shopping. And I'm like, oh, what are we shopping for? A house. Okay. We found, and ironically, it's around the same price point as yours. We found a little house with the help of someone who's smarter than me, who
mhm.
knew what we were looking for. He said, look at this house and here's why it's a good deal. It's in an area where there's a lot of people moving in, which means there's high demand. This house is undervalued because it needs some work. There's a level of desperation from the sellers. They just want to wash their hands and get rid of it. So they're wanting to sell. They're willing to take a reduction in price because they need to be out fast.
Yeah.
We bought the house and got a loan for $192,000, same amount actually. It's crazy. And we put all the money that we had gotten from our 401k and from the sale of our condo, but that wasn't enough. So what we did is we called a friend who actually we didn't know very well. And we just said, hey, we're looking at this house. We've got some cash. We need some cash. And we don't have good credit. Can we borrow yours? And here's what we think the house will do based on what this guy who's smarter than me is saying. When we got this house, we paid 192 minus, whatever the 20% was. And then we sat on it.
Mm.
We put some renters in there after we, had it all cleaned up. We had to do a chemical cleanup of this place, like meth house. It was bad. I had to get it like certified before we could put people in there. Once we got there, we put people in it, and we had this house for, I don't know, 6 years. We sold the house for $392,000.
Damn.
Now there's a big gap, 192 to 392. That's a $200,000 gain in
Mm.
6 years, plus the monthly few $100, right?
Escrow on top of that, yeah.
That was my proof money that you're talking about. And I thought, holy crap, I didn't go to work. I didn't spend 40 hours a week at a house. It wasn't a job. It was this passive income. And I thought, holy crap, let's do it again. So I paid the person that put the credit and some cash on, I paid their portion. I took what I had and I bought two more.
Yeah.
But I did it with people that were smarter than me, because I'm really good at doing nothing when it comes to real estate. I'm really good at hiring smarter people to do this. So I hired someone smarter, and I've got 2 houses in Florida, 3 now, and then I've got a house in South Carolina, because I took someone who was smarter than me, who had done this 1,000 times, and I said, help me.
Yeah. I think saying you did nothing is not fair to yourself. One of the most important
I
things you can
signed
do in real
documents.
estate, yeah, one of the most important things you can do in real estate is align yourself with people that know what they're doing, and to educate yourself enough to say, I am not being duped in this. I 100% know this is a good deal. I understand the numbers. You trust that other people know what they're doing, but you verify with your own numbers. I love that expression. You trust, but you verify. Trust,
My
but
mom taught me that.
yeah. And when you go into a deal with eyes wide open, instead of just take it away.
Oh, don't
Totally.
do that. It makes me sick.
Yeah. How many people do you know that have not read their documents? They don't know what they mean. They don't actually know what's going on in the transaction. They're just like, sign here. Okay, so, oh, now sign here. And they don't understand what they're actually signing away.
Yeah.
Like I heard this really funny example of banks pitching the idea of a mortgage. I watched this little thing the other day, and you're like, wait a second, if we really understand what a mortgage is, right, a death pledge, we probably wouldn't. That's literally what it means, the death pledge in French. But if we really
You're
understood that,
right. Oh my gosh, I took French for years and I never even thought of it. Mortgage.
oh my
Oh,
gosh, yeah, isn't that crazy?
it blew my mind.
Yeah, when you think about who's getting the majority of the value in that, it it is mind-boggling. So we have so many people that think, oh, it's a 5 or an 8 or a 9% interest rate. Well, that's because amortization is a really odd type of math. And if you know what you're doing, you could potentially knock off that interest rate significantly. So like, can I give you a weird example?
Do it.
This
Yeah.
okay, so what is colder, 1 degree or 32 degrees?
Well, which scale are we measuring in? Kelvin, Celsius, or Fahrenheit?
Exactly. In interest, how many people don't know what scale their interest is in, whether it's simple or amortized?
Yeah. Well, that word amortize is going to go over a lot of people's head. It used to go over
Amortized.
mine.
It is killed over the 30 years. Guess how much interest up front in comparison to at the end you have. You need to look at that schedule, and then you can actually assess how much of my money is actually going to interest, how much is actually going to principal. And you will be shocked. The first 5 years,
All
well
in.
over 100% of well over 100% interest, almost across the board. And you look at it, and they disclose that, and it's very clear. You're like, hey, the first 5 years, you're probably only going to pay 10 or 12,000 in principal. Like, wait, how much was my payment? You're like, well, it's a $3,000 payment. It's like, I'm only going to get 4 months worth of my money going towards my principal. That's a crappy deal. You're like, what if you took a portion of that and you changed it to a line of credit? And we're going to get into something like, I love this class. It's called our velocity banking class. But if you could change a portion of that, 32 degrees Celsius to 1 degree Celsius, which one's hotter? If you know the degree now, 32
Mhm.
degrees or one, which one's hotter?
If it's all in the same value,
If it's the
32 is
same
hotter than
value,
1, right?
32. But if
Yeah.
it's 1 degree Celsius and it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which one's hotter?
Well, they're the same.
No, the 0 degrees Celsius would be the same as freezing,
Oh,
right?
you're right. Okay.
It's
I
actually going
forgot
to
to go
be
to my
hot.
physics class.
Sorry, no, totally, you're good. But you think about it, as soon as you understand the scale, then you can start to make better choices. And what we do, what I always try and help people understand is knowledge empowers you to make better choices. It doesn't force you to make better choices. And when you're equipped with higher level thoughts, you can make higher level choices. Like when we were talking about the $18,000 ticket earlier, when I was in college, there is no way that I possibly could see value in paying someone $18,000 or $33,000 to be part of a mastermind. That was so far beyond my scope of what value would be. Like
Oh, me too.
there's no way. But then if you look like, oh, if this could save me 2 years of time and struggle, how much farther can I be if I had them help me get this key element and really dial it in? Like, oh, that's absolutely valuable. Pay it all day.
Yeah.
And that's a massive shift in thinking that I had for the last few years. That's why coaching and mentorship is so, so important. But you can't force anyone into their own future. I hear this over and over. It's only when they are ready. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher might have been there saying, guys, I've got this stuff. This will help you knock off your mortgage faster, or I'm going to help you get your business in alignment. I'm going to help you in so many different ways. But if they're not ready, it's like that red car that we talked about. They won't recognize that those things can help them. It can help others, but it won't hit their heart saying, oh, wait a minute, I can be successful. I can invest in real estate. I can go and change my life. It's always somebody else until you realize, oh, I'm ready to learn now. I'm ready to take that next step.
So you help people in this specific area. How do they find you? Where can people find and interact with you, and how do you serve them on that level?
I love it. The easiest way for a brand new person to get to know me is to go to my YouTube channel. I've got my Leveling Up podcast there. And then you can opt into my my newsletter from that in the show notes. I put in every single show note. You'll be able to get my free ebook. And I realized from Marianne last time, I was like, I'm giving away too much in my ebook. I have like a 36-page ebook. And she's like, you really knock that down like 3 to 10 pages. And I was like, I'm just too generous. No, that's good. But,
The spoon is too big. I can't drink it all at once.
yeah. It's too much. So anyway, that's the easiest way. Go to Brigham Blackham. I'm the only one that's Brigham Blackham on YouTube. You can find me that way. You can watch my podcast. I produce every single Thursday morning. I'm on diligently, giving as much value as I can. And yeah, opt into my newsletter. You'll get an email typically about once a week to let you know what's going on, and you'll get my contact information that way. Would love to interact with you in any way that I can that would be beneficial to you.
Well, I'm going to steal some links from Brigham and put them in the description of this podcast.
Absolutely.
So if you have that smaller ebook that's easier for people like me to read, we'll
I'm gonna
have
have
that
to
in the
simplify it.
description.
Yeah, mine's called leveling up your social media, which is just something that I've used all these different elements that I've taken from probably 12 or 14 different people, and I've taken little elements that I love. I was like, oh, I love this. This is great, and I put it into that ebook.
You're
So
stealing
I'm gonna have
chapters
to
from
simplify it.
people's books. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of like pages. I don't know if the chapters, but definitely pages from people's books. Like, oh, I love that strategy. How can I make that my own? Oh, he does this too. Oh, these two, and then you can fit them together. And that's the way that I feel like uh, I've learned from theater is you can see someone make a great choice. You're like, that's a cool choice. If I'm in a similar situation, I'm going to make a cool choice like that. Oh, and this was a great choice. I'm going to take that. And the difference between plagiarism and actually doing something that is completely unique is how many people you steal little elements from. If it's only one, that's plagiarism. If it's 20 people and you put it together and you organize it differently, that is just being very creative and bringing it together. So
Well, that's a whole nother podcast episode. I
whole
just
nother
put on
topic.
Instagram
Yes.
stuff. Like this idea of plagiarism, which I'm against. I don't love it when people take. I've had this happen before. People take my likeness, my videos, pretend that they're me, and then they're like, "Buy my courses," and I was like, "Wait, no, that's not me. That's my reputation you're stealing. You don't do that."
Mm.
But when I say like, "Here's my system for my daily accountability calls," or "Here's my system for how I did this," use it.
Yeah.
Use it. I mean, I'm drawing inspiration from people all the time and constantly adding chapters to my book. I
Yeah.
believe, this is my firm belief, that there is no new knowledge. And maybe I don't know what I don't know, but I don't think there's any new knowledge out there. I think it's old knowledge repackaged.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just sharing it. We're still to this day teaching mindsets from Aristotle and Plato and Socrates that, the four different personas. Plato taught that 600 BC. And now it repackaged by Carol Tuttle. Now it's been repackaged by the Color Code. Now it's been repackaged by this. Guys, this information has been around forever.
Yeah.
And we get to have it from all these abundant sources. So yes, read and absorb as much as you can and then write your own book.
Mm, I love that. And you think about the difference between just saying, I'm going to consume this content and then it goes away, compared to I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this and take this, and then I'm going to make something fun with it and give it as a gift to
Exactly.
somebody else. Very different experience when you think, how do I not just get something from this, whether it's a national event or it's an event that's like a podcast, but how do I take this and use it in my own life, my own practice, and then make it usable for somebody else? That little shift right there could make all the difference in you and your business.
Yeah.
If you say, instead of just having something that I use, I'm going to use it and then find a way that I can make it usable for somebody else. Usefulness
Gosh,
is value. That's where it's at.
that's a whole, I wish we had another hour to record a whole nother episode on that because it's a hot topic right now, especially in
Oh, yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
especially when everyone's observing and copying and sharing and all this stuff. But Brigham, I want to thank you for being on today. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Guys, if you want to go check out Brigham, check out what he's doing, see what he's up to, go check out the links in the description, check him out on YouTube. Brigham, thank you for being here today.
You're so welcome, Marianne. We're going to have you on my podcast very soon. I appreciate you.
Let's do it.
Woohoo! Yeah. God bless.
Yeah, you too, man.